The NFL draft is now officially
There's
open.
not a lot of first-round quarterbacks, and I think you go 5 or 6 before you even have an offensive player taken.
And brought down by Nick Bosa.
I think he's got a really good chance to be the #1 overall pick.
Devin White's the catalyst defensively for LSU.
Caught behind the line, leveled as he let go of the ball.
I think he could be a first-round pick, and I think he could be a good starting quarterback in the NFL.
That is the kind of play Kyler Murray has been completing all
For a
season.
young quarterback to get this kind of experience, you can just imagine how much better he's going to get.
Going to the air, it's intercepted. Greedy Williams.
I think they're going to be first-round picks, and I think they're going to be standouts at the next level.
So the curious case of Kyler Murray measures 5'9" and 7/8 of an inch. We have some breaking news headed your way on him. The Heisman Trophy winner is declared for the draft, but may still play baseball with the Oakland Athletics. A whole lot more on that decision coming your way. Speaking of a whole lot, the Oakland Raiders, they have a lot of draft picks, 3 first-round picks this season thanks to the trade involving Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper. The Packers are the only other team with multiple first-round picks. It looks like a very defensive-heavy first round. 21 of the 32 picks in Todd McShay's mock draft. Defensive players, which is huge. This is the first time that we've had 20 defensive picks in the common era, period. And you see right there, the national championship game, a whole bunch of those guys are going to be drafted. With the breaking news, Todd, as we go to it, comes from Adam Schefter, and it is about that man, Murray. He will attend the Combine. How does that change things off the top for you? How do you view the decision?
Well, I think the whole thing's interesting because when he first came out and declared for the NFL draft, we assumed that he'd go through the process and he's going to be a football player. You can't be a quarterback and play in Major League Baseball. But then he goes to the Super Bowl and wasn't really delivering a message that was very clear, I thought. Yeah. Throughout all of our shows here at ESPN, the Dan Patrick Show, I think people started to, I know people in the league started to question, okay, what are his true intentions here? And so by saying this, that he's going to the Combine, you then have to assume that he's not going to show up for the A's spring training, which is next Thursday. It starts next Thursday. So I think this is the first time where NFL general managers are starting to feel any confidence that he's actually going to be an NFL football player.
All right, so let's get Mel Kiper Jr. in on this conversation. Mel, big old news today. How do you view it? Does it change any of your evaluation on Murray? Good call, bad call? What do you think?
Well, I think we expected it, Jack, based on the way the season went for Kyler Murray, and I think certainly he's the most intriguing, most fascinating player right now in the history of the NFL draft. We have never seen a player 5'9", 5'10" at the quarterback position go in the first round, let alone top 10 to 15. The GM that takes him will be doing something no other GM in the history of the NFL has ever done. What GM has the guts to do that, Jack and Todd? It's going to be really fun to see this process unfold.
Yeah, thank you, Mel. And draft season means that you get our ace crew, of course, but most importantly, we are going to get the mock clock going as we go here. Let's take a look at Draft 2.0, mock draft 2.0 from Todd. He has Nick Bosa going #1 overall to the Arizona Cardinals. How sure do you think this is at this point? Is this a lock?
I'll give you 65%.
Okay.
Right in that range. I think he, certainly not a consensus, but I think if you were to poll all 32 general managers where they are in the process, we haven't had the Combine. He still has to pass his medical exams coming off the injury. Only played 3 games this past year. But I think he's the most complete player. I think outside of quarterback, pass rusher is the most important position on the field. And then, in addition to that, I just think he's ready now. With the ability to use his hands, Mel, and the ability to get off of blocks as a pass rusher, he's a lot like his brother Joey. And when Joey's healthy, he's one of the most dominant defensive linemen in the NFL.
No question. And I think Nick Bosa is the best player, but he had the injury as a senior. He had this injury as well. And Arizona could look to trade out of there to somebody. And I asked you, Todd, where's the trades in the mock draft? Oh, just kidding. We can't do trades. You know that. That's my rule. Not your rule. It's my rule. And you can't do it. But you got to believe come late April. Come late April, Todd, will somebody look to get ahead of the Giants, look ahead to get ahead of Oakland, if they're still in Murray, to move up to that #1 spot to get a Dwayne Haskins, Ohio State. I wouldn't say Kyler Murray yet. That's a big-time look at. But for Haskins, that may be a spot a team looks to jump to, and maybe Arizona is maybe tempted to move off of that top pick.
So how interested do you think Arizona would be as a team to potentially move back, kind of stockpile picks along in that process?
I think because there's so many defensive linemen in this class, and that if that's where they're going, somewhere in the defensive front, that you can move back, and you're not getting Bosa, but you can get a Quinnen Williams maybe from Alabama, defensive tackle. You can get a Josh Allen, a defensive end outside linebacker, or a pass rusher as well from Kentucky. There's so much quality in this year's class that if you get an opportunity, if a team is going to move up, like Jacksonville to try to get ahead of the Giants, so you know what, we don't want to put any doubt in our minds that we can get that guy. If we're going to move up, we got to go to 1. Unlike the Jets last year, we got to 3, and we're comfortable, they said, of taking any one of the top 3 quarterbacks. So to me, moving up to 1 is still a possibility, even though this isn't the quarterback class that we've seen the last few years.
All right, that's the ding. That is the clock. We'll now get to picks 2 through 5. Take us through what you were thinking here, starting with Josh Allen going to San Francisco.
Well, edge rushers, pass rushers, we talked about it, and to me, Josh Allen has improved his stock as much as anyone this year in terms of where he was as a good pass rusher, a guy who really hadn't gotten double-digit sacks, to 17 sacks last season. He's second in the FBS. This guy was all over the field, plus 5 forced fumbles. To me, the difference was his hand usage and learning how to become a pass rusher. He finally did it, and that's why I think he's going to be a top 5 pick, because if it's not San Francisco, it could be the Jets who are looking for a defensive end, or it could be the Raiders at number 4, and we'll get to that pick. But I went with Rashawn Gary here, coming out of Michigan. Even though his sack production and overall production was not what you expected as the first overall pick, this dude's 280. He's going to run in the 4.5s, and he's a big-time talent. And I think when he's healthy at the next level, he's going to be one of the premier players from this class. Then Quinnen Williams, I mentioned, rises. I was watching the tape in the summer and watching Raekwon Davis and Isaiah Buggs and a bunch of other guys in the front 7. And 92 occasionally flashed. This year, it wasn't even close. He was the best player on that defense, and I think you could argue he was the most impactful defensive player in all of college football. So the Raiders there would get an interior defensive lineman, still need an edge rusher, still have about 9 other needs. Then Jonah Williams was an interesting one, a tough one to pull the trigger on for me, because I'm not convinced he's going to be a left tackle, but I do think he's going to be a darn good guard or right tackle. And let's face it, the Buccaneers have got to protect better. Jonah came in as a true freshman, was a starter at the right tackle position, moved over to left tackle for 3 straight seasons. He has been one of the most consistent offensive linemen in the country.
Let's go ahead and throw 90 seconds on the old clock here, the mock clock. Mel, it is still the quarterback FL at the end of the day. I know we haven't seen a quarterback yet. 16 out of the last 17 drafts, there's been a quarterback in the top 3. Why is this year different, do you think?
Well, it's the defensive players, as Todd mentioned, Jack, but the trade possibility. And I think the Giants passed on Sam Darnold, Josh Allen to take Saquon Barkley after Mayfield went number 1. Figuring, okay, everybody said, well, they're not going to be back up there again. They got to think quarterback. They went running back. They're not picking at 20. They're picking at 6. Dwayne Haskins could be there, but he may be gone. Are the Giants going to sit there and take Haskins or even a Murray, or try to move up, knowing they have Barkley and they had Eli Manning nearing the end of his career? I think the Giants have to come away with a quarterback, and maybe moving up to get one may be the way to do it.
And we've seen it the last few years. I mean, go back to Wentz and Goff, obviously with Watson and Trubisky and every first-round quarterback except for Baker, basically, the last few years has been traded up 4. And we've seen some teams make some big jumps and give away a lot of picks. It doesn't matter. If you can go get your guy, you got to get your guy. And I think you're going to see teams act accordingly, knowing that there are 1, maybe 2 worthwhile first-round picks in this year's class at the quarterback position, and then that's it. It dries up. I mean, we may get a guy like Drew Lock from Missouri that gets pushed into the late first, or Daniel Jones, Kuiper's guy, pushed into the late first, but realistically, from a grade standpoint, there are 2 quarterbacks right now that belong in the first round, and one of them, we're still trying to really, truly figure out if he is going to be in the NFL and how long he wants to be in the NFL, in Kyler Murray.
Yeah, but who knows how that whole combine situation could change things. I mean, now we don't see quarterbacks go to the combine often, so we'll see how it goes. So if these teams do decide to come up to go get their quarterback, who do you think in the top 5 most likely to go backwards? Who would want to get out of there?
Well, I think all of them, except maybe Oakland. They already have 3 first-round picks.
Copy that.
You know, to me, Arizona's sitting there. If you love Bosa and you don't get a great deal, take him. I think San Francisco would move back. I think the Jets would move back as well.
Cool. So that's 5 picks down. 27 to go. We return. We'll tell you where the rest of this draft's biggest stars could play for. One of them may play for a team that he rooted for his whole time growing up. And Kyler Murray has already made history, but now he makes a decision. We'll break down why he should choose this team, why this team should choose him on Sundays when we come back.
Sports.
Welcome back to McShay Day on ESPN. Take a look at the top 5 there. You see Bosa going number 1. Josh Allen from Kentucky, such a great year in 2018, goes 2. 4 defenders out of the top 5 picks there. And that gets us to number 6, where, believe it or not, we have agreement. In the identical position as Mel's first mock draft, we have quarterback OSU, Dwayne Haskins, going number 6 overall. So right after they get Saquon Barkley, had a electrifying dude into that backfield, goes on to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. They go get their quarterback. Why is Haskins the right man?
I think he's the best pure pocket passer in this class. He's not the athlete that Kyler Murray is, and he's not going to have the explosive runs, but he's mobile enough to move inside the pocket. He feels the pocket and has good presence. What I love about him is he throws with anticipation. He gets receivers to get open because he leads them to the open field. And consistently on his tape, you see that about him. Plus, he played great down the stretch. When they needed him in big games, rival Michigan, Big Ten championship against Northwestern, both teams are great defensive coaches, and then another good coach team with Washington in the bowl game, and about 6 or 7 guys who were going to be drafted this year on the defensive side. He just tore them up. So I was impressed with the way he played down the stretch, and the more tape you watch of this guy, the more you realize that he's built for the NFL game as a pocket passer.
Agree, Mel?
No doubt. I think the adversity that you're going to have to deal with in the NFL, he dealt with at Happy Valley against Penn State. You talk about a game that wasn't really going his way. It wasn't going Ohio State's way. They trailed 26-14, 6:50 to go in the game, on the road, hostile environment. And he made 2 big-time throws down the stretch, final minutes to pull that game out 27-26. And then they got on that roll, as Todd mentioned. For the Giants, they didn't expect to be at 6 after they passed on the quarterbacks last year to take Barkley. But you have a bad year, you benefit. You get kind of a little bit of a present for having a bad year, and their present, they hope, can be Dwayne Haskins at 6.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is these guys are going to have to play. All 5 rookie quarterbacks played. Yep. They made at least 7 starts, talking about all those guys. So is Haskins ready to start right away?
Well, he only has 14 starts, right? He's a 1-year starter. Same thing with Kyler Murray. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly a team, whether it's the Giants or the Jaguars or whichever team maybe trades up for him, is going to be willing to put him on the field. But from everyone I've talked to at Ohio State, he has the football intelligence, great character, hard worker. He's going to put in the time. And, you know, the other thing that I love about him, too, this guy had no run game. Mm-hmm. This guy had no defense. They lost 1 game. You would think with everything that happened at Ohio State this year that they had a 500 season. They lost 1 game, and he was the guy who carried that entire program all season long.
That is the mock clock. That is the ding. That means we have to move on to the next pick, but it's worth noting, grew up in New Jersey, talking about Haskins, attended a handful of Giants players' camps as a kid. He's been a fan of the team since all the way back to the Tiki Barber days.
You're doing that research.
And so, hey, man, it's the first day of the new semester. You got to get the books out. You know what I'm saying? You got to get the book. Let's get to pick number 7 before I get going too long here. Number 7, Jacksonville Jaguars are going to select Jeffrey Simmons. See, Jeffrey Simmons is a very interesting one. A guy with top 10, top 5 talent, some people have even said. But there's that insane viral video from high school where Simmons is repeatedly punching a female back to his high school days. How difficult does his past make the evaluation on a guy like Simmons?
Hugely. I mean, you can't really overstate it. And this is obviously a very difficult subject to breach. I can just tell you what I'm hearing from NFL people when I talk to them about this situation with Simmons. That what he did was deplorable, and we know that. What he's done since has been impressive. Now, it doesn't erase anything that he's done. He's obviously remorseful for it. He's gone on to become a leader of that football team. He has had great football character and has done a ton of community service to try to make better a terrible situation. At the end of the day, as a football player, strictly as a football player, he's one of the 5 best talents in this draft, in my opinion. But there are going to be a lot of teams that just purely take him off the board because of what happened in his past.
Mel, strictly talking football here, what have you seen from Simmons on the field?
What a talent, Jack. And Todd alluded to it. You talk about a kid who, coming out of high school, #1 player in the state of Mississippi, 5-star recruit, 3-year dominator with the Bulldogs in the SEC against some quality offensive linemen. Go back to the LSU game in October. He had 10 tackles against the LSU Tigers. He was hustling. He was chasing in lateral pursuit. You know, about getting into the backfield, explosive at the snap, really good hand usage. Jeffrey Simmons is a quality football player. We see what Chris Jones did coming out of Mississippi State with the Kansas City Chiefs. McShay's as an early second-round pick. Jeffrey Simmons, on ability, should be a top 10 pick. We'll see if that happens and it falls that way come late April.
Yep. Okay, Todd, take us through picks 8 through 12 here, starting with the Detroit Lions. How do you see it?
Yeah, Detroit's got a tough decision to make. I think one spot they could go is cornerback, even though they haven't gone cornerback in the first round since Terry Fair in 1998. So this would be interesting to see if they break that trend. But Greedy Williams, I still think he's the most pure man-to-man cover corner. DeAndre Baker out of Georgia is probably the most instinctive player and maybe a little bit more complete. Teams want to see Greedy a little bit more physical, but he is long and he can press and he can cover. Then Jawan Taylor would be the next guy up. Again, these offensive linemen, I think, get pushed up a little bit because it's not a great class, but the Bills are in desperate need of offensive line help. Taylor finally had a consistent year this year, at least the most consistent of his career, and he's a big dude. He's strong. He's long. He's everything you look for in an offensive lineman. If he can continue to trend upwards with the consistency, I think you're going to get a really good starter in the NFL. DeAndre Baker, I mentioned him earlier, coming out of Georgia. This guy just makes plays on the football and reads quarterbacks' eyes as well as any corner I've seen in the last 5 years. It just jumps off the tape. He's consistently getting off of his man, reading the quarterback's eyes while in coverage and coming back and making plays on the football. I love DeAndre Baker. The Broncos would be a good spot for him there at number 10. The Bengals at 11, and you could say the same thing for Denver at 10. Are those two teams in the quarterback market? That's going to be interesting to monitor. I think if they don't go quarterback, offensive line is a spot that they've got to upgrade. It could be Devin White at linebacker, but Cody Ford from Oklahoma had a great year. First year as a full-time starter. He is a dominant, physical football player, and I think he's going to be a really good starting right tackle in the NFL. And then finally, I mentioned Devin White earlier as well. Devin White would just be a steal here. If you're sitting there at number 12, I know edge rusher, every Packer fan out there saying, where's it? We need an edge rusher. I get it. But if you're going to get this good of a football player, the leader of your defense for the next decade, 8 years, whatever it is, I just don't know that you can pass on Devin White if he's sitting there at number 12. So a lot of good edge rushers, but a few already off the board. I think Devin White would be a value pick at that spot.
And he can fly. He can absolutely fly. So I'm curious, Mel, we'll go to you here. How has the evolution of the game of football, the NFL in particular, changed how you evaluate the linebacker position?
Well, you can't be a guy who is just a run stuffer, Jack. You see that there. The days of the Mike man, that guy's going to be able to handle the run inside is over. You need a guy who can run to the football, cover, and that's what Devin White does. And I think Todd hit it. Steal. If he's there at 12, I think he's the fourth best player in this draft. He's a tackling machine. We see what Deion Jones, former LSU Tigers, doing with the Atlanta Falcons, because he can run and he can move around in terms of range and do whatever you want and be a three-down guy, and he fits today's NFL. So where the traditional linebackers are being phased out, Deion Jones isn't phased out, and certainly Devin White is not phased out. He's phased in. He would be a steal at pick number 12 for the Green Bay Packers.
No doubt. If he can get past the Cincinnati Bengals, that is, they may be looking at him as well. This year, the Steelers missed the playoffs for the first time since 2013. We'll tell you where they need to fix their defense most next. And then you're going to look at this superstar. One, Kyler Murray has 2 leagues waiting, but could John Gruden be waiting on him? We'll tell you right after the break. Season. Take a look at Todd McShay's mock draft 2.0. As you see, we're through 13 picks right there, and that's only one quarterback. That's the big note here. This would be the fewest quarterback transaction through 12 picks since 2013, when E.J. Manuel was the first quarterback to find a home. That was 16th overall to the Bills. And we are telling you today, Kyler Murray will attend the Combine. That reported by Adam Schefter. So now we get to the curious case here of Kyler Murray. It all started when the Oakland Athletics took him with the 9th overall pick in last year's MLB draft, but still allowed him to play quarterback at Oklahoma, and he did that pretty well. Murray threw 42 touchdowns and ran 12 in on the ground last year, leading Oklahoma to the college football playoff. Murray won the 2018 Heisman Trophy following Baker Mayfield. It was the second straight year a Sooner quarterback won the award. And in January, Murray announced his intention to enter the NFL draft before the underclassmen deadline. It's important to remember here, he could still choose to play baseball. Murray is not the first undersized Oklahoma quarterback to step into the NFL. You think back to Baker Mayfield. He's a few inches shorter than Mayfield. About 20 pounds heavier is Baker Mayfield than Murray. And both were productive passers in that Lincoln Riley offense, of course. Murray showed some wild wheels as well with over 1,000 rushing yards and the 12 touchdowns that we mentioned. Here is Kyler Murray an indecisive Kyler Murray, that is, on the decision he has heading his way?
You know, I've always, as a kid, you picture yourself, playing, or for me personally, I picture myself playing, the MLB, the NFL, whichever one it was, the NBA. But, at the end of the day, that's their lives. I'd be happy for them. But if I go play baseball, I definitely, that's what I'm gonna go do, and I'm gonna do it 100% and not look back. And if I do it, vice versa for football. So I think whatever choice that I make, I'm gonna go in it 100%. Go hard and never look back.
All right, so for the riddle of this draft in many ways, we're going to throw a full 3 minutes on our mock clock here. So why do we see Kyler Murray going to 13? Why do we see all these teams waiting till 13 before Miami's able to ultimately grab him?
Is he going to play in the NFL? And is he going to stay in the NFL if things don't go well early in his career? That's the big question. I mean, here's the payday. $4.66 million if he plays baseball. And the upside is a lot greater in terms of the money, but that's if he succeeds. There are a lot of guys, even more so than in the football draft, that wind up being early picks and never make it to the big leagues. He gets drafted, let's say at 13, making close to $20 million in guaranteed money. So finances have to be part of this decision. This is the first time today when he says that he's going to be at the Combine, Mel, that I feel like he's starting to show some legitimate commitment. You even, in that video there, you saw that he wasn't sure. He was saying, if I go to Major League Baseball, if I go to the NFL, not definitively I'm going to be an NFL player. So this is the first time where I feel like we have any sense that he really legitimately is going all in on the NFL.
Yeah, and I'll say this, Todd. I like the lack of arrogance, too. People can take it. He's not saying, hey, I'm football. He's got to wait and see. He wants to talk to the NFL just like they want to talk to him at the Combine, because he's got to know, am I a first-round pick? I can't assume anything. Am I going to go top 10, top 15? If I give up baseball, am I going to be that type of guy? Am I going to be your guy, your CEO? So he's got to find some things out, while the NFL is going to have to talk to him about that. You got to be all in. He's got to be passionate about one sport, not two. And if he got to just to figure out, is it baseball or is it football? I will say this. At the Combine, you care about one thing, his height and his body type. It's not about throwing a football. We know he's accurate. We know he's got a great arm. We know he can run a 4.4, whatever, like Lamar Jackson. You don't have to run. We know you're fast as lightning. But the interview, the height, the weight, the body type are the most important things at the Combine for Kyler Murray.
And I'll say this. If I am certain that he is committed to the NFL, he's a first-round pick, and I feel comfortable with it. I think he's so underrated in terms of his passing skills. It's easy to see the electrifying speed and quickness, and it's easy to get caught up in that. But what he did from an accuracy standpoint and timing and going through progressions and seeing the whole field and operating that offense for Lincoln Riley and the different things that they do, this guy's a legitimate pocket passer who just happens to be explosive, but he also happens to be around 5'9". We'll find that out, and I get it with the height, but I think in today's NFL, especially with the mobility that he brings, that we're talking about a guy that belongs in the first round. And if he's committed to the NFL, I think he's going to be a really good, dynamic starting quarterback at the next level.
Yeah, and real quickly, just give me a comparison. When he does decide to take off as a runner, who does he remind you of? Mel, we'll go to you first here.
Michael Vick, and I think you look at the ability, RG3 was more straight line. He was a hurdler, and I think when you look at the ability, as we've talked about, with his body type, evade, elude, stay away from danger, don't take hits. I think Kyler Murray, he's going to be tough to get a good hit on. I think he can stay healthy in the NFL. Yeah, let's take a look at the height, because it's going to wind up being such a big piece of all this stuff, which it always is. So you have Baker Mayfield, and you're going to take a look at where he is, 6'1", listed at. Russell Wilson, 5'11". He's obviously had great success. Drew Brees, kind of the trailblazer in many ways in terms of successful quarterbacks. So if he comes in at 5'9" and 7/8", this would really be the first in many ways of its kind, right? When you dip below 5'10", what's your sense of how the NFL teams are looking at that?
My sense is that, Russell Wilson, it's the first time anyone 5'10" is going to come into the league and maybe try to be a starter. I don't think it matters anymore. I think the league has changed. I think we're spreading things out. It's not as physical of a game. It's not a pocket game as much as anymore. You go back over the last 10 years, and the numbers have grown exponentially in terms of throws outside the pocket compared to inside the pocket. Plus, the good statistic going back to 2009 as well, quarterbacks who are 6 foot or shorter have had fewer balls batted down than 6'1" and taller. So it's a different game than what everyone remembers 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. I think this is going to work. He just has to be with the right system and a coach that is committed to adjusting the offense to what he does best.
Well, what do you think? Is he able to really climb up there in the top 10, given that he's going to be shorter than we've really ever seen go that high in the draft?
Because again, John Gruden's at 4. That's the one. That's a pick we're going to be talking about a lot, is that 4th pick overall for John Gruden in the same division with Patrick Mahomes. John loved Russell Wilson. He loved even Johnny Manziel, and that didn't work out. But he's going to say, that little bit's going to prevent me from taking a guy I think could be special. We'll see.
All right, let's go to a few other picks here. Let's go to the Atlanta Falcons. We'll go 14 through 20 here, starting with Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta, I went with Ed Oliver, and this guy's an impact player. Now, he's not Aaron Donald. The pass rush skills aren't there, but in big games against ranked opponents, he had 6 sacks against 4 ranked opponents. So he steps up and becomes a difference maker. This, to me, is really about Grady Jarrett. If he returns, then I think maybe Atlanta goes with a Dexter Lawrence type, a bigger guy to play next to him. Marquise Brown. Talk about the speed of Kyler Murray. This guy is one of the fastest wide receivers I've ever evaluated. I mean, he is lightning fast on the field. I don't know what he's going to run. Is it 4.3, 4.2? I don't know. I don't care, because the tape shows the most explosive wide receiver in this class. I know he's 170 pounds. He's had some trouble staying healthy in terms of the lower body, but when he is on the field and healthy, he is a difference maker. Cleveland Ferrell is another edge rusher in this class, another guy that can get off the ball quickly. He's got great hands, really productive the last 2.5 years at Clemson. And I just think for the Panthers, it makes a lot of sense. They need a left tackle, they need a corner, they also need an edge rusher, and Ferrell will be there. I think at that point, this is right around the range where he winds up going. Then the next pick after that is another Clemson defensive lineman. They're all over the place. The Browns, they don't need as many things as they used to. This is a different Browns team. I think that they're going to try to find a playmaker up front, and Wilkins, to me, is the most versatile of these interior defensive linemen. He's played outside, he's played inside. Heck, he'll even play fullback for you. I just love the way this guy plays the game and the motor that he brings. Then we're down to the Vikings. Montez Sweat, he had a monster Senior Bowl. You look at him, and he looks like a speed rusher, looks like a guy that doesn't have a great anchor, and it's not the best, but he's a lot more powerful than you think. Talk to any offensive lineman in the SEC, and they all say the same thing. That dude has some snap to him, and I think he showed that at the Senior Bowl, and he was the best pass rusher that entire week there. And then T.J. Hawkinson would be the next guy. I love this player. I think Hawkinson is one of the most underrated players in this class. We talked about Noah Fant. Really, he's a slot receiver, Noah Fant is. Hawkinson is one of the rare dual tight ends coming out of the NFL draft. Titans could use him. They have some depth issues at tight end. They need some more versatility. And I think for Marcus Mariota, that would be a great pick. Devin Bush. How many in a row are we going to do here, Todd Snyder? Devin Bush, the linebacker who's a lot like Devin White out of LSU. Instinctive, fast, today's NFL, sideline to sideline, use all the cliches you want. He's just all over the field for Michigan and that Don Brown defense. He really gets the game, and I think he's going to be somewhere in that probably 15 to 25 range. The Steelers, obviously, Shazier situation, they just need a playmaker at that off-the-ball linebacker position, and that's exactly what Bush is.
Yeah. You sure you don't want to do a couple more picks real quick?
Oof.
Run through a couple more commercial? Maybe,
Give me some air.
As we get into it. All right, so it takes us all the way to 15. How about that to get a little receiver off the board? Gruden, plenty of picks. 2 more coming your way. Could he bolt up and go get his quarterback, or have we officially lost it? We're talking Raiders next. Full coverage Tuesday through Monday. The ESPN and ABC coverage will also be available, as always, on the ESPN app. All right, so let's get to picks 21 through 23. Get us down to Gruden here. Where do you see the Seahawks going, Todd?
Well, the Seahawks, I think they need more pass rushers. Ja'Kai Polite really came out of nowhere this year. He's always been talented, but he finally put it all together as an edge rusher. He's got speed, quickness, explosiveness. DK Metcalf, the nephew of Eric Metcalf, out of Ole Miss, going to the next spot. And then finally, Joejuan Williams, a cornerback, long press corner. I think he'd be a good fit in that Houston Texans system.
So for the Oakland Raiders, this will be their second pick now of the first round. They still have one more hanging around at 27 there. What are the odds? Let's go to you first here, Mel. What are the odds that they get a little wild with this pick, maybe go try to figure out a quarterback, something crazy? Is that possible from Gruden here with all the ammunition?
Well, Jack, I think it is. And I think you look at Derek Carr. They had 2 foundation pieces, and they had a third in Carr. So the 2 are already gone. That's Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper. Now you have the third foundation piece, drafted by Reggie McKenzie, no longer there as the GM, in Derek Carr. What does John feel? He's had a year with Derek Carr. How he views Derek Carr's ability to trade points and beat Patrick Mahomes, okay, is going to determine whether he takes a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the tough thing is you trade away all the great pieces, and you're like, Carr go win games now. It's like, wait a minute, what? I got to go win all these games. He's ultimately going to be evaluated wins and losses. So let's go. What do you think the Oakland Raiders end up doing there?
Well, I think edge rusher remains a possibility, but we've seen a bunch of them come off the board. I think 5 or 6 already at this point. So they got a defensive tackle with the first pick, Quinnen Williams coming out of Alabama, which would be a steal if he's sitting there at 4. Assuming they're not going quarterback, how about we get another weapon or 2 around the quarterback position? How about we help this guy out if we're going to stick with Carr moving forward? So A.J. Brown, big physical slot receiver, can use his size to create, good route runner, strong hands in traffic, does a lot of the dirty work in the middle. And then Josh Jacobs from Alabama wasn't even the starter. Damian Harris was the guy for the last couple of years. But you saw Jacobs come in, and he was the guy at the end of the year when they really needed it in the biggest games that they relied on. He had some big games down the stretch. He's explosive, and he's versatile. This guy can work out in the slot, and he'll pass protect. He's tough as nails.
Yeah, and Mel, just quickly, do they need – a lot of people are going to say, well, you got to go get an edge rusher. You still got to get somebody who could get after the quarterback, double-digit sack guy. Do they need to go figure out one of those guys in your estimation?
Well, I think they do, and I think that's what Todd alluded to. The defensive side, be it inside, outside on the line, another linebacker and a defensive back or 2. So they need help in a lot of spots, but I think the pivotal thing here is how they feel about Carr. Do you trade Carr, take Murray, or do you stick with Derek Carr?
You're stirring it up, Kuiper, huh? You've been doing this all day long.
Try it.
All right. That's the ding. There we go. So we're on. What the heck are we on to now? We got another pick coming. Oh, we're going to get to our Twitter question. I like this. This is on our NFL on ESPN. This comes from Jags1185. Should the Jaguars find a way to get high enough to go get quarterback Ohio State Dwayne Haskins? What do we think? Let's start with you here, Todd.
Absolutely. I think they should bring in a veteran, and I think they should go up and try to get Haskins and steal him from the Giants if the Giants do want him at 6 and are unable to make a move up. Listen, they've had 12 picks in the top 40 going back over the 6-year stretch prior to last year's draft. And all 6 of those years, they had a top 5 pick. What do we have to show for it? It's been 7 years since Blake Bortles. It's time to move on. They've got to bring in a veteran, as I said. And, Mel, I would look to moving up. Who cares if you don't have the second-round pick? If you got to give that away to move up a few spots to go get him, go get your quarterback solidified. There's too much talent around good quarterback, especially on the defense for Jacksonville, to just be sitting around and trying to win with some mid-level veteran quarterback.
Well, you said mid-level, Joe Flacco, Nick Foles. Do you feel they're the guy? And even if you bring them in, do you still go get Haskins? Well, you know the bridge quarterbacks are done. All those bridges never work. The other guy came in and beat them out. So the young guys play. If you think he's a one-year starter, we need a bridge, fine. But I think getting Haskins is something the Jacksonville Jaguars need to try to do.
Yeah, and you figure out something at quarterback, be a whole new quarterback room potentially there in Jacksonville. So the Rams coming off a silver medal. The Patriots are still partying. We just had a couple of them here on NFL Live a minute ago. We'll break down the needs of the NFL's best right after this. So the NFL Draft is on ESPN for the 40th straight year and on ABC for the first time ever. The ESPN broadcast is our traditional one with our College Game Day crew on ABC. It all comes to you from Nashville. I do like that. April 25th through April 27th. And all 3 days streaming on the ESPN app. So we're going to take a look at these picks at the end of the round there. You see 28 through 32. The Rams coming off a Super Bowl loss and a tough one offensively. Going tight end there with Irv Smith Jr. Why? Is that the move, Todd?
Well, if you're Les Snead, who's done a great job putting together this roster, you got some tough decisions to make long-term. Guys like Ndamukong Suh, especially on the defensive side, what are they going to do financially? So we've got to figure that out. But I do think for Sean McVay in this offense, Irv Smith would be a nice matchup piece. I mean, he's a guy who really had a breakout year this year. He can block a little bit. He's tough, and he really gives effort as a blocker. But what he is a difference maker in the passing game. Right now, disagreeing. He's 6'2". He's 248 pounds.
Todd.
Why?
Who the heck is Mel Mel Kiper Jr. Mel Kiper who?
Great hands and even great greatness. Not to mention tremendous tremendousness.
Todd.
An amazing amount of amazingness. I haven't slept more than 17 seconds any given time preparing for the draft. I've said enough already.
This is impossible.
Apparently not.
I love you.
This won't go away.
No, it will not. No, it will not. Take a look at the picks. 1 through 32 on Todd McShay's mock draft 2.0. We just finished 31 and 32 there with the 2 Super Bowl teams. The breakdown is he'd set a record 21 defensive players in the first round. And this would be the second draft since 2001 with no quarterback in the top 5 picks. 15 SEC players selected in this mock, which is a whole bunch. An Old Dominion guy, how about that? That'd be the first time ever, right? First time
in the first round, potentially.
Got to be a little tough to evaluate those guys. So there you go, making all kinds of history there with Mock Draft 2.0. So let's get to a Twitter question. This comes from Jimmy Salazar. He says, draft Murray and trade Rosen. Let's go, Arizona Cardinals. Let's go. More of a statement, less of a question, whatever. We'll go with it. Anything to that, do you think?
I think it's a reach. I really do. I think they got their quarterback. Now, the only thing with Rosen is the durability. I think everything else, he's going to be good enough to be a good starting quarterback in the league. He's a pure passer. They've got to get better around him, though. That would be my priority, especially with protection with a quarterback that has struggled with the durability in the past. Cliff Kingsbury does like these kind of guys. I could see the system fit. He did say that I would take him first overall, but that was just prior to playing him, so he was buttering him up back in October. But at the end of the day, I think that they're going to go in a different direction, and Rosen's their quarterback moving forward.
Yeah, prior to playing is probably a pretty important note on that. Let's get to what Baker Mayfield had to say about Kyler Murray. I think this is probably pretty important. We said he would go number 1, like we said in the break. People are going to say the size thing, but they said that about me, and to me, that doesn't matter. You've got to look at the intangibles. He's a leader. He can make every throw. He's a natural passer, and he can run. He doesn't get hit a lot. People say that because he's small, that he'll get knocked around, but he slides. He doesn't get hit like that. And the most important one, he's a winner. He's won at every level he's played at. So if you're looking at the important things you want in a quarterback, he's got every single one of them. So there you go. It's nothing quite like when your boy has your back. What do you think about Kyler Murray? Number 1 overall, the whole Arizona thing. Mel, are we absolutely insane at this point?
That's a little high. I mean, you think about Steve Keim drafted Josh Rosen. Cliff Kingsbury said that prior to becoming, he didn't know he'd ever become the Arizona Cardinals coach. And Josh Rosen, yes, the least impressive of all the rookie first-round quarterbacks, but he was playing on the worst team in the NFL and didn't get any help. So I think you go a different direction if you're Arizona. You stick with Rosen. But Kyler Murray, at the end of the day, if he's all in for football, he's going top 10, I believe.
Yeah, and the big news today was that he's going to attend the NFL Combine. That was reported by Adam Schefter. What does that do? I mean, this is very uncommon for a guy. Is he going to throw? Have we heard anything along those lines? Attend is what
I don't think it matters. I just want to see him there. You know, if he's there, that means he's committed, and it means he's not at spring training, which starts next Thursday for the Oakland A's. So I think just attending it, going through the process, getting the medical done, the measurements, as we have talked about with the height, and then just meeting with teams and explaining to them, hopefully, if you're an NFL general manager, in a convincing fashion, hey, I'm all in. I'm all in on football. I'm going to be here for the life of this 5-year contract if I'm a first-round pick. This is where I want to be.
Mock draft season. We're just getting started. Great stuff. Mel, thank you, boss. See you guys. Be a whole lot more of these coming your way.